Welcome to Mystery Files, where we take a deep dive into cases that span from the creepy to the truly bizarre and everything in between. I'm Shane, and today I'll be forcing my colleague Ryan to hear all about the strange case of the blue fugates. In the end, you'll have to decide if the mystery is solved or if it's simply a mystery.
Is there something different about you?
I've been putting on numbers, at the gym, putting up those big numbers.
That's
so
probably
yes,
I
I've
think
been
that's what it
working
is.
out.
That's what it is.
No, I'm blue. Let's acknowledge the fact that I'm blue in honor of these lovely people we're talking about today.
Okay.
You'll learn more about them, but this is sort of the vibe for today.
Are you going to be doing any drumming?
Oh, I wish probably. Now, if there ever was a place it might seem likely to stumble upon some blue people, it would of course be deep in the impenetrable forests of Appalachia, right?
No, I've never had that assumption. What would make you have that assumption?
I don't know, where else would they be?
I've never assumed there'd be a colony of blue people other than the folks in Avatar.
Well, Pandora, very similar to the Appalachian.
Pandora, how did I
Very
forget the
similar
name
to
of
the
that?
Appalachian Mountains, many have said. I think Jimmy Cameron was very inspired by Appalachia.
I see you.
Sivako, you are like a baby, always making noise, don't know what to do. Is it weird to hear me saying that while
It does,
blue?
actually.
Hello again, it's me, Professor Morris Ashley, and I'm here to rave about a new fashion trend that I just can't get enough of. Have you ever felt a bit underwhelming when it comes to what's hip and in? Well, I'm no John Cusack, but I will say one thing. I love Bombas, and I'm so happy to be partnering with them for socks and sandals season. You see, Bombas is a comfort-focused premium basics brand with a mission to help those in need. For every t-shirt, pair of underwear, slippers, and socks purchased, one is donated, with over 150 million items donated already. As you can see, each pair of Bombas half-calf socks seamlessly pair with my sandals. I mean, how chic do I look? And they hug my feet, just like my estranged wife, Bianca Sophia, used to do. Oh, ring, ring, ring. Oh, Hollywood, is that you? Lose my number. I'm busy. I can buy these guys overseas too now, with international shipping being offered to over 200 countries. And if my cute little cat gets to munching on my sock, well, Bombas has a 100% happiness guarantee, meaning free returns and exchanges for any reason. Feel good and do good with Bombas, knowing your purchase is doing some real good. New customers get 20% off their first purchase. Just go to bombas.com and use code WATCHER at checkout. Now, it's time for me to take these bad boys out for a spin. Speed dating, here I come. Oh,
Well, Appalachia is precisely where our story takes place, in a town called Troublesome Creek, Kentucky in 1820. Troublesome Creek was called troublesome because back then it was extremely annoying, nearly downright impossible to get to. Located in a remote valley, the land was so clogged with trees, vines, and boulders that even experienced hunters and rugged outdoorsmen found it hard to access. Only the most stubborn, desperate settlers persevered and put down roots in the region. So not a
Why? I mean,
namesake is quite
just go
literal.
to a different creek then.
Tough to get there.
I thought it was troublesome maybe because it was troublesome to cross. That would make more sense. You have to cross this creek. It's a troublesome creek. But if it's like, oh, it's just hard to get to this creek,
Just don't go there
don't
and
go-
don't name it.
just don't go to the creek then.
Yeah, that's a good point. Two of those settlers were husband and wife, Martin Fugate and Elizabeth Smith. Martin was a French orphan who somehow ended up purchasing a plot of land on the American frontier. He and Elizabeth trekked out there with plans of raising a family. In many ways, they seemed like any ordinary young couple. That is, until Elizabeth started giving birth to blue babies.
Is that an actual photo or did we Photoshop?
That's a real photo. That's not photoshopped at all. They had color photo cameras back then.
What year is this?
No, I don't know, 1830s?
Oh, okay, never mind. Then
No,
that's-
that ain't real. We
Tinted
took
blue.
that baby,
Dipped
We
it
took
in.
a photo of it, dipped it in some blue.
Yeah.
No Photoshop involved. In short order, the Fugates had 7 kids. 3 of them were pale, as white as their mother, who was in fact notably poetically pale. Quote, as pale as the mountain laurel that blooms every spring around the creek hollows, as someone who must have had a crush on her once said.
So
What?
this is a rendering of the family, the blue family.
This is actually them. It's supposed to be them, at least. Yeah.
So some of them are blue.
Yeah, so you didn't let me finish. The other 4 Fugate kids were blue.
So they had some blue children, and then they also gave birth to what appears to be Michael Myers.
Right there?
No, on the bottom.
Right there. They've got the blue gene, but they've also got the big Mike gene. I mean, not far off, not far off. Also kind of Michael-ish.
No, that guy on the bottom.
This guy on the bottom,
That is full Michael Myers.
You know what? It's kind of like
You better kill that kid quickly before he kills you.
It's kind of like if Mike and Chucky had a kid. Now, by all accounts, this was shocking, as people are rarely blue, but it shouldn't have been totally surprising.
I don't even care about the blue family anymore.
You're just
I want to know about baby Michael Myers.
Baby Mike. But it shouldn't have been totally surprising for one reason. Martin... What? Oh man, he's still there. I tried to get away from him, but he's still peeking in.
He's still smirking.
But it shouldn't have been totally surprising for one reason. Martin, the father, was also apparently a touch blue. Indigo, in fact. Now, many of these details were passed down through oral tradition, so it could be legend that Martin arrived in Troublesome Creek already indigo, but it's a fact that 4 of his kids came out blue. And since Troublesome Creek was not only nearly impossible to get to, but also impossibly tricky to leave, Martin's kids stuck around. They grew up, married partners, and had kids. And some of those kids, who were first cousins, married each other, and they had kids, and those kids married, and soon the valley was brimming with Fugates, nearly all of them blue.
They couldn't even beat the incestual allegations because there's a bunch of blue folks running around
Yeah, that's
after a
a
while.
tough one to...
That's a tough one. We weren't doing that.
Tough one to try to excuse.
Yeah.
Word of the Fugates' blueness spread fast. Some described their coloring as gunmetal blue, or blue as fish hooks. It was said that they would get especially blue when angry, or when they had too much to drink.
Sorry.
Why does that make you laugh?
I was operating under the assumption, seeing as how you said they're born blue, that they were always blue, but I didn't realize they were like a fucking mood ring.
Well, I think,
when they get angry, they turn blue.
when if people get angry, they could get sort of red or flushed.
So they just get bluer.
It was assumed that the blueness must have hurt the Fugates, but they seemed in otherwise good health. Their only other symptom was that their blood was brown. When it ran, it looked like melted chocolate. And I know I'm saying that like it's a fun little bonus detail, but frankly, it sounds very bad.
How do they know that?
I assume someone bled at some point.
I know, but it just feels like
bloody nose.
Feels
a
like
paper
somebody
cut.
murdered one of these blue people.
No,
and
you
watched
gotta-
the blood come out.
Well, I don't know.
run.
It's possible they
Mike, it was Mike.
It could have been Big Mike. Harmful or not, being blue made the Fugates outcasts in the community. It freaked people out. Luckily, there wasn't much of a community in Troublesome Creek to ridicule them. There was no railroad passing through, nor even any real roads. On top of that, the Fugates themselves made up a large percentage of the community. Still, rumors of their blueness reached far beyond Troublesome Creek, and those rumors soon transformed into superstitions and prejudices. Some people thought the Fugates were blue because they had been cursed by the devil, or because they had intermarried with slaves. All of this meant the Fugates found it even harder to leave Troublesome Creek and find non-Fugates to marry. Some family members became so reclusive they refused to go into town to buy food. Now, the Fugates, to their knowledge, had never been cursed by the devil, but if not, the question remained, why were they blue? And there he is again. It's time to get into the theories.
Okay.
As to their blueness. Let's blue it!
Nice.
Oh!
Wow.
He's still peeking.
I saw him peeking
He's
out of
still
a
peeking.
Theory 1.
He's winking at you up there. Now, over the decades, several theories began to emerge as front runners, so let's get right into them. Theory 1. Heart and lung disorders. Now, some hypothesize that the Fugates suffered from heart disease and lung disorders, which might cause blueness due to a lack of oxygen in the blood. Cases of heart or lung disease had been documented to cause blue lips, blueness. So the theory went, maybe the Fugates had such a strong case that the blueness had spread to their entire bodies.
I think that's what's actually upsetting about your getup. I've realized it now.
It's the lips?
It's
Is
that
it
your
the
lips
lips?
aren't blue.
I tried to get some blue on them, but they're pink, aren't they?
Yeah. Okay.
This sounds crazy, right? Just because someone's lips might turn blue if they're not getting enough oxygen, you wouldn't assume that a whole body would turn blue.
Is there any record of their life expectancy being quite low among the family?
Well, we'll get into that. This seemed unlikely since the Fugates were actually typically in remarkably good health. You got that one right. A jelly bean for Ryan.
Once again, you're not the professor.
I'm feeling myself in this. I'm fuzzy, I'm blue, I'm feeling all right. At a time and a place when life wasn't exactly a picnic, many of them lived into their 80s and 90s. Others suggested their blood was just, quote, too close to their skin. Now, when observing veins and blood vessels through the skin, one might perceive a bluish tint, but you'll remember the Fugates' blood was the color of chocolate when it left their bodies. So, overall, not a good theory.
No.
Let's move on to theory 2. It was a blood disorder. Now, this theory is that they suffered from a blood disorder called Methamoglobanmia, a circulatory condition often brought on by an enzyme deficiency or an overabundance of vitamin K. Now, pork liver has a lot of vitamin K. Were they simply eating too much pork liver? How much pork liver can a person eat? Can you eat too much pork liver? Of course you can. Would it make your skin blue? I don't know. What do you think of that one? Pork, too much pork. This theory is pork.
I don't
this
like
theory
looking
is
at pork
maybe too
liver.
much pork.
I've never
Look at that
eaten
liver.
pork liver, so I guess I can't really knock it. I'll try anything once, but I don't want to try that.
I had fried chicken liver at the House of Pies in Los Angeles once.
How was that?
It was good going down, but on the way out is the worst thing I've ever produced smell-wise. Let's move on to theory 3. Silver, baby. Yes, maybe instead of eating too much pork liver, were the Fugates actually snacking on precious metal? Before penicillin was widely available, many Americans ingested low doses of silver, which, believe it or not, has antibacterial qualities. Now, some people, despite abundant penicillin, still eat silver, like this guy, Paul Carrison, aka Papa Smurf, who took some hoping to curb a bad case of dermatitis. Now, he turned blue because the silver gave him a much worse condition called argyria. And that's why he looks like that. Now, did the Fugates also overdose on metal? Would poor rural Kentuckians really drink silver rather than sell it? I don't know. Let's move on to theory 4. And this one isn't as fun as the others, but we've tried to make it look as jovial as possible. Inbreeding. Now, many have suggested inbreeding, which, in Kentucky at the time, was a bit like the pot calling the kettle black. Cousin marrying was very popular then. You know, hey, we learn, you live, you learn, right? Interviewed years later, a relative of the Fugates named Dennis Stacy said, quote, back then, there was no roads. It was hard to get out. So they intermarried.
What's the deal with cousins, am I right?
What's the deal with cousins? It's a very, the deal is don't marry them.
Their deal was like, let's investigate very closely.
But that was true of nearly every holler in Kentucky. Very few roads were built in the area until 1910. Before that, the forest was so thick that people traveled into creeks, which often led right up to the houses. That's kind of cool, I think. I mean, not the intermarrying, but cool that they traveled via creek instead of roads. That's fun.
Like a lazy river system.
Yeah, kinda.
That's fun.
So if everyone was marrying their cousins, why were only the Fugates blue? Which brings us back to everyone's favorite theory. Theory 5. Devil worship!
What?
Yes, the Fugates had been cursed. A lot of people thought, case closed. After all, the Fugates did seem suspicious. Because of their blueness, they were ashamed to be seen by the few other people in the county who often ridiculed or even harassed them. They decided to isolate instead of mixing with the community. This created a vicious cycle. The longer the Fugates went without socializing, the more people became suspicious of them. It seemed like they had something to hide. Finally, they became outright pariahs. Many people didn't want their children to play with the Fugate children in case they caught their blueness. The Fugates' period of isolation would end up lasting nearly 150 years, during which time they only socialized with a few nearby families.
It's actually pretty sad.
Yeah,
Are there any blue surviving Fugates now?
Well, before we get into that, do you have a favorite theory?
No, I don't think any of those work.
None of these? You don't believe any of these?
No.
What is your theory then?
It's probably some sort of other health condition not listed here.
All right, well, let's see what happened to our blue Fugates.
Oh, God.
We're back at the screen.
Yeah, we are.
She didn't see that one coming. There's more to this story.
I thought so.
The mystery started to unravel in 1960 when a young hematologist named...
This one is solved.
You don't know that yet. You don't know.
It's solved.
You don't know. You can't make assumptions like that.
I solved it.
You'll make an ass out of you and me, out of blue and me.
I solved it.
When a young hematologist named Cawwine from the University of Kentucky heard rumors about blue-colored hill folk. Cawwine was a well-respected doctor, having helped isolate the antidote for cholera and having helped create a drug to treat Parkinson's disease. His passion in life, however, was for hematology, mostly because he liked how blood looked, not streaming down people's faces, but under a microscope. Quote, "Blood cells have always looked so beautiful to me," he once said. This guy's a freak. What?
It's just he's a creepy guy, I guess.
He probably didn't say it with that sort of level of intensity. He's probably like, blood cells have always looked so beautiful to me. That doesn't make it much better.
Just things you hear while you're blindfolded.
Yeah. So when Dr. Cawwine heard about the Fugates with their blue bodies and chocolate blood, he was thrilled. He immediately set out for the forest, bringing a sturdy nurse named Ruth Pendergrass with him. Like Dr. Cawwine, Nurse Ruth was a blue superfan. The Fugate rumor fascinated her. Ruth lived in Hazard, Kentucky, deep in the hills. Every day, Dr. Cawwine drove 8 hours to meet up with Ruth, and the two of them scoured the hollers for blue people. For weeks, they had no luck. And then, just when they were considering giving up, a pair of blue siblings walked right into Ruth's clinic in town. Their names were Rachel and Patrick Richie, close relatives and neighbors of the Fugates.
Very close.
Very close neighbors. You know, they got that upside down pineapple on their door, you know.
Yeah, dude.
Dr. Cawwine and Ruth started charting the Richies' family health history to try to find the origin of their blueness. They found no evidence of heart or lung disease, ruling out that popular theory.
Which I also ruled out.
He also, let's let it be
I
noted.
also ruled that out.
You should be a doctor.
Thank you.
Yes. Then they tested the hemoglobin levels in their blood, suspecting they might suffer from anemia. These tests, too, came back negative. Stumped, Dr. Cawwine and Nurse Ruth began digging through obscure medical literature, hoping to find similar cases. And after rigorous searching, finally, they found something. The case of some native Alaskans who were blue, and not just from the cold. Those Alaskans were found to have Methamoglobanmia, a condition caused by an enzyme deficiency.
You sure it's not caused by trying to pronounce that?
That's a long one.
Methamoglobanmia.
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 Methamoglobanmia. Methamoglobanmia. Methamoglobanmia. After further tests, it was discovered that Rachel and Patrick Richie lacked the enzyme diapherase and keeps the blood from producing too much methemoglobin. As a result, the Richies' methemoglobin levels were 10 to 20 times the normal amount, which prevented red hemoglobin from transporting normal oxygen levels to their blood. While it wasn't toxic, it did alter their skin tone. Guess how?
I kind of zoned out a little bit.
I was giving you a layup question.
Well, I was just thinking.
Well, just read. It's not toxic. It did alter their skin tone. Now, how do you think it altered their skin tone?
Oh, because it made
them blue.
I was just thinking about green-a-globin, and I was like, because it was like a Green Goblin.
This is what you think about.
I was thinking about that in my head.
When I'm telling you things.
I was imagining a Green Goblin blood.
Methamoglobanmia is a recessive condition which likely started in the Fugate family all the way back with Martin and Elizabeth 150 years earlier. In most cases, it would have died out because a recessive trait requires both parents to carry it for it to be passed on. But since the Fugates were so isolated and so often intermarried, only ever branching out to marry into a neighboring family, like the Richies, it was passed on through inbreeding. The gene pool was tiny, so the defect stuck around.
Theory 4!
Theory 4!
It was Theory 4!
It was Theory 4!
So it was Theory 4!
It was Theory 4! Dr. Cawwine confirmed that being blue did little harm to the Fugates and the Richies. There were a few side effects. Some family members lacked sweat glands. Others had bird-like faces. And some lacked immunity to major diseases, but largely they were doing okay. Still, when Rachel and Patrick Richie introduced Dr. Cawwine and Ruth to the real Fugates, who were then mostly living near a dead mining town called Hardburley, they realized that the blue people didn't particularly love being blue. So, the doctor whipped something up to help them. He injected everybody with a second enzyme called, oddly enough, methylene blue. And when they took it, they turned pink.
That must have been a cool moment to see them like shift
I don't think
pink.
it was like that, Ryan. I don't think they injected themselves and just went.
They started to float. Just,
That was close enough. Sadly, the transformation was only temporary, but Dr. Cawwine left everyone with enough methylene blue to last a lifetime. The blue people turned pink, and many left Kentucky and married non-blue people, producing non-blue children. Soon, there were no more blue Fugates left.
damn,
He fixed them!
that's cool.
They were blue no more!
Good doc.
A happy ending!
Yeah,
A happy ending for our blue friends.
nice.
that
Blue
nice?
no more.
Yeah. Well, the curious case of the blue folks of Kentucky has captured people's imaginations for generations. It's weird, it's true, and it finally answers the age-old question, what happens when a family doesn't hang out with anybody else for hundreds of years? Thanks to a very curious doctor, the riddle was finally solved. Disappointingly, it wasn't the devil, it was a recessive, mostly harmless enzyme deficiency. Even so, don't marry your cousins, and definitely don't marry them if they're blue. Anyway, we can safely say that this case is solved. Doesn't that feel good?
It does. It would be kind of neat if just as an overall like human trait, if you did any kind of
turn blue?
incestual behavior, you turned blue. You
That
know?
would be nice. Yeah, like robbing a bank when the
exactly
bag,
like the blue bag.
the blue bag blows on you.
And when,
What were you gonna say? I'm curious.
I mean, they finished, but I'm not gonna finish.
All right, folks. Well, it's been a lot of fun here talking about these blue folks. As we said, keep it outside the family.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time.
The bloop, I've heard of it. You actually have heard about the bloop.
Very loosely. I know it's a noise that people have heard somewhere deep in the depths of the ocean.